Welcome to NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast series, where we focus on how financial advisors work, live, and give to their local communities and our greater financial services industry. Now, let's get started with the show.
NAIFA Nation, welcome to Advisor Today podcast, where we give you back the voice of the advisor, and we're super excited about today's podcast. We have just entered March. So, Zach, March Madness is right around the corner. How exciting is that? But Zach, before we start talking about March Madness and what NAIFA does to really enhance your March Madness experience, let's discuss a little bit about who our sponsor is for today's podcast.
Well, it wouldn't be, March without talking about our congressional conference that is coming up in just a couple of months, because this is when we really start to see the registrations rolling in. So our signature Grassroots Advocacy event, Congressional Conference, is crucial to our grassroots advocacy strategy. It's an event that brings NAIFA members together in critical mass to advocate on behalf of their businesses, clients, consumers, and the insurance and financial service industry as a whole. And it provides targeted advocacy training with briefings on specific legislative issues, best practices for conducting congressional meetings, and tips for developing impactful long-term relationships with legislators. So check it out at conference.naifa.org/2025, and you can see more about what we are doing in the advocacy space at NAIFA. Back to you.
Zach, you are the sharpest pencil in the place today, man. Look at you, man. I like the pocket.
I got my 8 hours.
I like the pocket square. I like the baby blue. You look just like you fell out of Mad Men.
Hey, you trained me well. You just inspired me to dress better, so I'm gonna do it.
Zach, one of my coaches used to say, you have to dress for success, and when you dress for success, you feel blessed. Look at that. See, so Zach, I'm giving you words of knowledge from guys that lived well before me. But Zach, what you don't know though is I came prepared for a little extra for you today. So since you came with the white pocket square, Zach, I'm coming with the red fire with the tie today. So we're super excited because we have fire. We're super excited about bringing together today one of our GR representatives of NAIFA, Bianca. Are you there, Bianca?
I am here.
Bianca Alonso, you might have saw her before. Her new name, so don't address her Bianca Alonso. She is no longer Alonso. She is now Weiss. So congratulations, Bianca, on getting married. And we're super excited to have you and as one of our guests today. But really, you're going to be one of our co-hosts. So, you were nominated as one of the up and coming leaders of NAIFA and personalities. So we're super excited to welcome you on both sides. One, as a future co-host, and two, as someone who is on the GR team, and we don't get a whole lot of opportunity. Every now and again, Diane will pop on, but we don't get a whole lot of opportunity to engage with the GR team. But we all know that grassroots and advocacy is one of NAIFA's what I call superpowers. So welcome, Bianca. We're super excited to have you. If I had a round of applause button, I'd hit applause.
Thank you so much, Chris, for having me. I'm really excited to be involved with the NAIFA podcast. This is something new to me. I've never really done a podcast before, so this will be my very first one, and I'm excited to chat with you regarding advocacy and what we have going on the horizon.
Well, Bianca, let's start with that. So share with everyone. People might have seen you at congressional conference. They see you over there running around, moving things around, and actually, you're doing things. But share with me, what is your role at NAIFA? What do you do on the GR team? If people are going to approach you, what would they approach you for?
Sure. So my role at NAIFA is State Government Relations Director. My role definitely is definitely very multifaceted in in regards to our advocacy operation, I manage all of NAIFA's state advocacy efforts. I provide assistance to all 50 of our state chapters when it comes to bill tracking, bill analysis, drafting testimony language and talking points pertinent to any bills and regulations that may be moving about in the state. And then on what we call the interstate level, I represent NAIFA at NCOIL, the National Council of Insurance Legislators, where I attend meetings and meet firsthand with insurance lawmakers on the state level, and we discuss priority bills, and that's a very, at least for me, I very much encourage our state chapters to approach their lawmakers, directly, because they're constituents and they're the people that these policies will be impacting directly. But when I attend NCOIL, that's my opportunity to interact with lawmakers, to kind of just tell them a little bit more about NAIFA, tell them that they have subject matter experts in the form of our chapters on the ground in their home states, and I often connect these lawmakers with our state chapters so they can collaborate and ensure that we're driving forth policies that are positive for the industry.
So you are the conduit between the states and their potential lawmakers. So why is that important? I mean, at the end of the day, that's grassroots movement. Yes, is getting involved, getting off the sidelines,
right,
showing up at their state legislative day, but not just doing that, but taking time to maybe write a letter to their congressman and or their senator, and or setting up a meeting at their office when they're in their district, and going to see them and sharing some of these stories. I mean, we have real compelling stories that we are helping their constituents. And talk to us about why those things specifically, like the things I just described, are super duper important.
Yes. I mean, Chris, I truly feel that our industry is one that impacts all aspects of society, and I also feel that not very many people think of it in that way. When you think of like any aspect in your life, there's almost always some financial or insurance component to it. And what makes NAIFA so impactful on the state level, as well as the federal level, but I'm state level, so we're going to kind of hone in there. But what makes NAIFA so incredible is that our members have a passion for this industry and a passion for advocacy, and I feel like that's something you can't put a price on, and having our members be able to explain how certain policies will impact their communities and their teachers and teachers and businesses and their main street, right, is something that is something that really drives home the messaging. Lobbyists are great. With NAIFA works with a slew of contract lobbyists in the states, and they are amazing. But nothing drives home the messaging than hearing it from the person that it impacts directly.
No, and that's huge, of course. And what's awesome to see as well is over the years, you start to get a sense of, just from my perspective of getting to go on Capitol Hill and getting to go to these meetings and meet with these lawmakers as well, with our NAIFA members, and watching them grow as really solid constituents, and their knowledge improves through our training, and their breadth of understanding of our laws and the intricacies of them. they become really, really strong in those meetings. They really pick up on what they need to hit home on, and the relationships that they develop throughout those meetings too are just top notch. Chris, I'm sure you have great relationships with some of your lawmakers in from Illinois.
We're very fortunate in Illinois that some of our lawmakers actually live in our area. So we've gotten to know them through some of the relationships that our state has brought forth, and which is also good. One of the most unique things actually was I've been very fortunate because I didn't know this, Bianca, but there are certain flights that come direct back to Chicago from Washington, D.C. Well, if you take the 230 from Washington, D.C., all the people that are coming back to Chicago, like Danny Davis and what's her name? Duckworth. They're all on that flight. They're all on the flight, sitting in, not in first class, sitting in normal seats.
That's so true.
Yeah. And so I mean, standing in line at the TSA, and I'm like, no, that's not Danny Davis. And yeah, it's Danny Davis and a couple other cars. So I found that to be really interesting, is that, we see these people on TV and we see them as elected officials, but they're just normal human beings, right? They're normal people. Matter of fact, we were talking about a barbecue place here in Chicago on our flight back. And he was like, have you been to that place in a long time? I'm like, no, I haven't been there. He goes, you need to go. You need to tell them. I'm like, okay, great. So it's commonality that I didn't know there's some secret flights that actually come back to Chicago. So if you ever want to talk to some congressmen on the way back from Chicago, that 2:30 flight out of DC, that's the last direct one, and they're on it.
That is insider knowledge.
Yeah, that flight just doubled in price.
Yes.
They are on that flight. So that's always fun. But let's shift gears for a moment. Both of you represent the millennial class. Let's call it the millennial generation. So you are a more outspoken, and let's call it more auditory. You are actually more vocal. Your generation. Why is it important that you guys get involved in politics and involved in change? And why is that important? And I'll go to Bianca first and then to you, Zach, because I think it's important to hear from both of you.
Sure. Okay. I was actually having a kind of a similar conversation with a girlfriend recently. And I think what makes millennials so unique is that when we were born, it was pre-internet, pre-social media, pre the digital age. Thank you. That was what I was trying to get at. And we have seen just society shift so much from pre-digital age and just society in general to present day. And I feel like our generation specifically is really the only one that has had to adapt time and time and time again. And I think I think as more changes in society can continue to come about, what I've learned that, about life in general, it really is all about how you handle any obstacles, any hardships, any successes, because life is fluid and you never know what's going to come your way.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. And I'll just add that I think it's not only important for millennials to get involved politically, but everyone really. I mean, the voter turnout I'm just going to speak openly. I think the voter turnout is atrocious. I mean, every time I see the percentage of people that don't vote, especially that 18 to 29 range, that ever since I was 18 and able to vote and voted in every election I could, I've always seen that category in particular be so disappointing, because it's just the voter turnout is so bad. And if you look at some of these elections that happen and said, if there was a candidate that just made up of the amount of people who didn't vote and all the votes went to that candidate would win because of how many people don't vote. So it's just silly. And I wish that we could do more to inspire people to get registered and to actually participate in the political process. I wish I knew the secret answer that could do that. Maybe it's just letting them know that they have more of a voice than they think. I think some
Yes.
millennials maybe feel, or anyone maybe feels that their vote is just another one that doesn't matter because of whatever state they're in. They see they think of their state as a red state or a blue state. So they say if they're the opposite, they feel like their vote's not going to matter one way or the other. But enough people think that, and you get people whose vote, people who don't vote. So I'm not sure, but I just know that it's important because you look at that voter turnout and you say, how much more of a difference could that be or that make if it swung the other way?
Do you see anything in the political process that seems outdated because of just the government moves slow and we just haven't updated things?
Well, I absolutely believe that that with individuals starting to kind of migrate out of these quote larger cities and move into these I don't want not second tier cities because that just sounds like I'm doing like a hierarchical thing, which I'm not. But they're moving to these smaller cities that are growing at a rapid rate because they're getting all these people. And what people and what I really just want to drive home in regards to that is that there is that the is that like is that there has been a I mean, there's always some capacity of political ebbs and flows, but I feel like especially now, as as younger generations are starting to become more exposed to just things in general, like with social media, with just having access to so much. I think I think the government really needs to take a step back and realize that that the the population and demographic makeup of the US now is not what it was way back when. And that's not gonna and that there are no signs of that slowing down. And I kind of have like a small like uh personal experience with that. I I moved to Austin, Texas from the DC area at the end of 2018. And I lived there for about 5.5 years. My husband and I are now back in the DC area. But when we moved there, from that point until we moved back, I cannot explain to you how much that city has changed. Like the Austin's slogan is keep Austin weird. It's quirky. It's it has these small businesses and like like little nuances that maybe you wouldn't see anywhere else, and that's what attracted people to that city. Then what happens during the pandemic? People realize that they can work remotely and move to these smaller cities that have a lower cost of living. But what happens? The more people that move, that drives up the cost of living. And so during my time in Austin, I really saw like I I really saw just how quickly a small city can become a big city because just due to people moving there in a really short amount of time. And I think Austin is not the only city that happened to during the pandemic. And in that, you know, political trends can shift as well.
Was this around the rush of time where there were a lot of people leaving California to go to Texas?
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's where Don't California My Texas came from.
Ah, yeah.
That's where what phrase came from?
That's where Don't California My Texas came from.
Don't California my Texas.
Mhm. Yeah, because during the pandemic, you had all these tech companies leaving well, maybe not totally leaving Silicon Valley, but opening another huge hub in Texas because there's no property taxes, lower cost of living, and and all of that. And so, and as these tech hubs, start or as these tech companies started coming through, they started bringing all their employees, and it drove up the cost of living in Austin.
And a culture shift, right?
Huge culture shift.
Yeah.
Huge culture shift. And even, I mean, like even certain neighborhoods in Austin that were known for being, like for being those quirky areas, those, like divey, cool spots where you get a breakfast taco and see live music and, and just hang out. You started to see like more high rises being built, more commercial businesses, more more of like a concrete jungle. And some would argue that it takes away that has taken away from Austin's charm. But I think and so someone from Austin can tell me that I know nothing, which is completely fine. But I don't think it took away Austin's charm. I think it's just a very clear example of how cities and areas can grow when you inflate their population.
It's interesting because you're right. The one thing that's consistent is change.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody can think that we're not going to change, but a change is consistent, and we have to be willing to embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
So we mentioned the millennial wave. If we take a look at NAIFA and our association, which is one of the oldest associations for financial services, and I believe we're the only financial service association with representatives represented relationships in every district. Okay. So we're going to toot our own horn for that, and we want to continue that. So those of you who have relationships out there, please let Bianca and her team, the GR team, know you have those relationships, because there is a change. There's been a migration and a change. So we have to now work really hard to reestablish a bunch of those relationships so we can still wear that badge. So with that being said, though, Bianca, tell me a little bit about how are millennials joining associations. Let's take a look at the NAIFA statistics. So the average NAIFA advisor, let's just say that they're senior in nature, right? We're going to say they're over 50, which that would include me, but I am not technically included. I believe they're over 60 as an average or above, right? And so there's more of them than there are potentially people under 30, right? So if we take a look at this, if you were going to join an association, let me ask you better. If you were going to join an association, you had to pick one that kind of aligned with your values and things that were important to you. How would you go about picking it?
So for me, networking would be first and foremost. I truly believe that the power of networking is priceless, and you never know who you're going to meet, like at all. So for me joining an association, I look for networking opportunities, and whether it's in the form of like a happy hour or like a regional event, whatever, but just an opportunity to interact with like-minded people in the same industry, and be able to learn from their experiences, and maybe have them learn a little bit from mine.
Okay, Zach, what about you? So networking is number one. Do you have a number two, Bianca?
Number two, professional development. I feel like I went through a lot of my working career like not really understanding how crucial professional development can be until I joined NAIFA, and I became privy to all the amazing programs that we have. And I think I think taking the time to invest in yourself is probably the greatest gift you could give yourself. So
understood. So we're very fortunate to have now the LUTCF come online. We have Lily, which is leadership in life, those of you out there who have not taken or have not researched it, Lily is a program that is a NAIFA launch program. And if you want to join or be a part of Lily, Brandon Burnett, reach out to him and or your state. We are pushing for more states to put on Lily programs because we need to have more of those as we start to figure out leadership opportunities. And it starts from within. It doesn't start outwardly. I think we look for leadership opportunities outside, but it really starts from within and understanding what is your superpower, what is your why, and how do you align it with like-minded individuals like Bianca said. Let's go to Zach. Zach, you're also in that millennial draft class.
Yep.
What attracts you now to associations or groups that you join?
I don't know that I'm a typical millennial. I'm someone that likes to pick up the phone rather than email or text, which is apparently not a millennial thing. So I like a sense of community. I really want to find somewhere that makes me feel like I belong. If I walk into a room and I feel like I go up and talk to someone and I'm received well by the conversation, then I think I feel like I belong somewhere. I don't necessarily know that everything. So I think it is just networking, like Bianca said. It really is just like having a place where you can come together, whether that's virtual or in person, like a sense of community where you feel like, oh, I know I'm going to go to this event because I'll see this person and this person and this person. That'll be where I see them again. And that'll be a good feeling to reconnect with them in that way. So I think a sense of community is most important.
So both of you have mentioned something different, but some of the same, right? So you both mentioned kind of networking. Zach mentioned a sense of community. Bianca mentioned professional development. And if we look at NAIFA, we have all of those things. However, we at NAIFA, we don't always promote that we've got them. So it's like a super secret treasure. It's like a super secret sauce. Like we got the super secret sauce to our buffalo wings that we don't tell everybody about. So how can we collectively as a organization and or the constituents of this organization tell more of their story and why it's important to them, or that will then also hopefully attract others like themselves to this organization. So how do we do a better job? We'll go with Zach first and then go over to Bianca.
Yeah, something that I've been thinking about is putting together young advisor panels, something that you can do to bring younger voices to the meeting and to the mix, and then actually sort of inviting their perspective to be heard, giving them a platform to be heard. And because I don't necessarily know that a lot of people within NAIFA know what they need to do to attract those younger advisors. So I think if you bring them forward and you give them that opportunity to be heard and have their voice brought to the forefront, you might figure out exactly what needs of theirs need to be met, almost like you would in a client meeting. You need to ask the right questions. You need to hear the right answers in order to move forward to fix whatever problems and offer the right solutions. So maybe that's the same sort of fix with this situation as well.
Bianca, what do you think?
Sure. I'll tell you what always resonates with me, and it's hearing real life instances of people getting themselves into a situation and insurance has saved them. Which is why I'm a very big proponent of Life Happens and their real life story series, because at least for me, when I was in like my mid to late 20s and someone would talk to me about insurance, this was pre-NAIFA. I just want to say pre-NAIFA. And someone would talk to me about, financial planning and insurance and this, that, and the other. In my head, I would just be like, why? Like, I'm 26. Like, I just want to go to happy hour. Like, I'm young. I'm happy. Like I'm fine. But then you just never know what can happen. And I really think that for millennials, especially right now, as we're kind of getting into this new administration, there's been a lot of change, a lot going on, and we're 2 months in, right? And I think And I think now more than ever, it's the most important to make sure that you are protecting yourself and that you are looking out for those around you in in terms of financial planning and insurance. So I really would love to see NAIFA continue to catapult these life happens real life stories, but maybe hone in on the millennial demographic, because many of them, because many of the ones that I've seen are are empty nesters, or you know or individuals that maybe aren't quite in the millennial generation. But I truly think that if we put out stories that pertain to individuals in mine and Zach's age bracket, it will stick. It will stick because I feel like millennials, to an extent, we are driven by fear.
So let me. Is it fear of missing out? Is it FOMO too? Like, it's a fear, like you said. Is it fear of the unknown, or is it fear of missing out, or is it a combination of both?
I think it's absolutely a combination of both.
Yeah, because
Absolutely, yes.
yeah, because if I see something, I'm on Bianca's page and I see something, I'm like, ooh, how did she go to Lithuania only for $200? Like, I want to know how to do that, right? I need to know that I'm not missing out on it. Oh my gosh, look at that experience! Look at that. She can see the world from the top of a mountain, and look what she has on. I mean, so you're right. Like, people are. And I think the internet has allowed for people to vicariously live through other people, and that fear of missing out, the fear of not being valued is a real thing. The fear of not being in control of your future. That is one of the things that I did learn about the millennial culture, is that your generation wants to be in control of their destination, not being told what to do, but want to be like, I can do it. I'm going to show you I can do it. I'm going to pick up bootstraps and do it. There's a great opportunity for me to do it. So being in control of your destination is important to you. It's empowering. I did read that. So thank you both for that. And you're right. So NAIFA Nation, recently, we looked at the life stories and life happens. And currently, I believe we're missing 17 states where we don't have a life story. And the only way we get those stories are from people like yourself. So if you have a story or know someone that has a story in which insurance product or investment products has helped that family in the time of need, please reach out to Brian Steiner and his group, reach out to Zach, reach out to someone at NAIFA and say, hey, raise your hand and say, I have a story. They work with your compliance department. I did one of those stories, and I can tell you that it's pretty seamless. The hardest part was figuring out what kind of pocket square I was going to wear that day. That was the hardest thing to do. They come to you, they make the story work, and they it's everything. Everybody who's ever seen it has said, man, that's a wonderful story. I'm glad you did it. But I have tons of those stories. But no one ever asked me before to do one. And so I'm going to tell you that right now I'm asking all of you to look in your experience, pull out a story that you've got and share it with someone from NAIFA, especially NAIFA National, so then perhaps your story will be chosen as one of the ones that they memorialize and make into a video. Not to say that your story is not important, but we need to have more of the stories from the states specifically that do not have those stories. So I don't know where we are on publishing those, but I do know the other day when I looked at it, I believe there was 26 states where we don't have a story and we've never had a story. It's unbelievable. But we know that people die in those states, and we know people died that had insurance in those states. So where are those advisors? And we need to talk to those advisors. So let's shift gears, shall we? Bianca, you're going to be on a podcast, huh? Are you excited about that? Are you nervous? Share with us a little bit about what's on your mind. What kind of message do you want to send? What do you hope to accomplish by raising your hand and being on it?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm definitely nervous, definitely anxious, but really excited. I think I think my story getting into the insurance space and my journey with NAIFA has positioned me to really offer a really fresh perspective on navigating this industry and just being just a millennial in this world where there is a lot of change, there are a lot of unknowns. And Chris, I do want to go back to something you said earlier. Another thing that millennials crave is stability. We don't like not being stable. We love to be in control, yes. Type A personality right here, but being stable, especially as our generation enters, parenthood and having to look out for their parents and getting into caregiving, we like thinking ahead is all that is on our minds. And Zach, maybe I'm alone here, but
100% agree.
Yeah. With being a co-host for this podcast, I'm really excited to talk about how we can reach these younger generations because trust me, they can be reached. You just have to make sure you have the proper tools to grab them.
Awesome. So we look forward, number one, to hearing your story.
Yeah.
Because we believe that everyone's journey is unique. We can all learn a lot from each other. My story is not your story. We look forward to sharing with NAIFA your story, that what you feel comfortable, obviously. Now I'm going to ask some hard questions in the future. So guess what? You may have to share. This podcast is known to get a little emotional at times. So don't, it happens, but it's okay. This is a safe space. So it's okay. But that is part of getting to know the inner person, and their spirit and their soul is getting to know them on all levels. So we want to get to know you, and we want to get to know what you do and how you do it and all the skills and all those fun things. But people want to get to know you. They want to get to know you. And they want to get to know the person behind the three last names there. So, when you pop up on the screen, that guy said, I knew it. I knew you were going to pop up as three aliases. I knew it, Zach. I just knew it. So
Chris, I love a good rebrand.
Oh, awesome. This is great. This is the reboot. We love this.
Yes.
So, Zach, what other questions do you have for Bianca before we spin it off into our fast-paced round here before we go?
Well, I would just say, what message do you have out there for those NAIFA members who have their state legislative days coming up and they're going to be meeting with their state lawmakers?
Yeah, we are seeing a lot of activity in the states this year. This is hands down the most amount of bills and regulations I personally have been tracking since I've been at NAIFA. There is a lot going on, and a lot of opportunity to talk to your lawmakers. And I wanted to say this earlier, and I'm glad you asked me this, Zach, because I can tie it in here. I think people, and specifically millennials, can sometimes feel intimidated by the fact or the idea of interacting with their lawmakers, because in their minds it's like, okay, this is an elected official, might be outside of my tax bracket, we're not from the same generation. I don't know the stranger. So what can I bring to the table? Why should I bother? But truth be told, my generations, Zach's generation, the younger generations, we are the future, and those lawmakers really should be paying attention to these younger generations. And so tying it back to legislative days, if you are a non-member, attending a state legislative day, it is a fantastic opportunity to not only learn about NAIFA, but it gives you a vessel to getting face time with your lawmaker. And a majority of the time, and I speak from experience, a majority of the time you will be surprised at how down to earth these lawmakers can be, and how often they genuinely want to hear your story, where you came from. Why does this bill impact you? Why is this good? Excuse me, good or bad for the district? And I feel like these younger generations are amazing storytellers. We have access to so much through social media and through life experiences that they know how to drive home messaging and how to capture your attention.
Bianca, we're going to ask you for the first story time. Like, story time, NAIFA Nation.
Story time.
That's always the one where you like lean in and go, okay, what kind of story is this, right? Part 1 and part 2 and part 3. Yes. So, we enjoy the fresh ideas. We're open to the new thoughts, and we look forward to your wonderful smiling face on NAIFA Nation, and look forward to, from a national perspective, getting the states what they need so it's necessary for them as they go to meet with their lawmakers. Congressional conference is right around the corner. Zach, would you highlight that and tell people now it's open, people can get signed up, where it's going off at, and the dates? Do you have that handy?
May 19th to May 20th, 2025. You probably want to come in on the 18th, that way you can really make the most of your trip. Washington, D.C., yeah, absolutely. Check it out again. I mentioned it earlier, but conference.naifa.org/2025. Again, May 19th and 20th. We are looking forward to having a great group there. And it's just a great opportunity, as Bianca said, to let your voice be heard and get to talk to these members of Congress that actually want to hear your story as a constituent. So, yeah, hope to see you there.
And for the first time, I do know this because I was on a call this morning. For first attendees, there are stipends.
Yes.
for stipends, and I believe they're half gone. So if you're a first-time attendee, have never been to Washington, D.C., have never gone to congressional conference, please reach out to NAIFA National to see if for your state to figure out if you would qualify for one of these. Once they're done, they're gone. So, take advantage of them. We don't want to leave any of them on the table. I will tell you my story. Hey, Bianca, watch this. Story time. My first opportunity to attend to ever be in Washington, D.C. was through my NAIFA experience. When I was growing up, my school used to go on a Washington, D.C. trip where you would go to the Capitol and you would do all those fun things. And it was you had to pay $500 at the beginning of the year, and you had to pay $500 at the end of the year. And they took these yellow buses across the country. And they or these buses across the country, or whatever it may be, the conversion buses or whatever, took them across the country, and they took all these kids from our high school, and they went out there for a whole week, and they got a chance to experience DC. They did that for 4 years. And I remember asking my mother a long time ago, I asked her, I said, can I go? And she said, no, we can't afford it. I said, okay. So I didn't really ask. She goes, you can either do that or school pictures. And for me, I was like, okay, I think school pictures is the one I want to do. So I did not go to DC. And I remember my first year in this business, and they said, hey, you get an opportunity to go down to your state capitol. And so I went down to the state capitol, and then someone said to me, they said, hey, we'll see you in DC. And I'm like, what's going on in DC? And I remember getting off the plane and saying, I'm in DC. And they said, okay, you're going to go over here. And I had somebody kind of help me. But my first experience, I'm still like a kid every time I go to DC. So I feel so thankful to NAIFA for, one, having the invitation to go to DC, and two, all the people that came before me that paved the way for me to go. And every time I go, I learn something new, and I see the business of government. I see the things that our ancestors and predecessors have built. And I started to realize how fortunate we all are to live in the United States of America and be able to hang out with like-minded individuals in NAIFA, and how blessed we all are. So that's my story time of how I've got to visit DC. But my first experience in the Senate and the House was with NAIFA. It was talking to my local constituents. And so I thank everybody out there who has opened their arms and allowed for Chris Gandy from Kankakee, who chose pictures over over DC, the DC trip. Not that they were the same, because even if I would have said DC, my mom would have said, no, you're not going to DC. But, we just couldn't afford it. And I can now say, our Legacy Wealth Group, our group, has sponsored 5 people to go. We've paid for their attendance to congressional conference, so they had the experience. So we're super excited about that. We want to continue that. So with that being said, Bianca, are you ready for the lightning round?
Sure. Well, let's do it.
Sweet. Zach, do you have any other announcements before we go to lightning round and we close?
Let's do it. Let's do lightning round.
All right, Bianca. So the lightning round is basically around if we had more money and we had basically sound effects, we would crack it like, but we don't have that. So with that being, or drum roll, whatever it may be, but this is just a way for people to get to know you. They may know your name, they may know your face, but at the end of the day, what I've found is that when people know who you really are and what kind of makes you smile, it's typically how people will come up to you. They'll say, hey, I remember you. You were the one that said, like, it's the most random thing ever. Like, don't you remember I talked about economic policy and laws? No. I remember you said that you like strawberry ice cream. I'm like, what? So it's really random. But we want people to get to know you and know the person you are. So I'll just ask you questions, whatever comes to mind. Just respond with whatever top of mind. Don't overthink it. Just relax. It's not hard questions. They're pretty easy. So Bianca, first thing I'm going to ask is Austin or DC? Which one did you prefer to live in? If you had to.
DC.
You like DC? See how easy that was? Okay.
Yeah.
The next one would be, Bianca, what is your favorite food?
My mom's carbonara.
Your mom's carbonara. So Zach, see, this is a road show. So when we go on the road to Bianca's house, her mom needs to come over so we can have the carbonara.
That's right.
Yes.
Unique experience. All right. Bianca, what's been the highlight of your NAIFA, of your career with NAIFA? What's been the one thing that you're like, I'm super proud of that, where I'm super excited about what I accomplished there?
Yeah. Last year, I submitted NAIFA to join a financial literacy coalition that is made up of about, I think, 15 to 20 different financial institutions, and NAIFA is the only trade association that is a part of that coalition. So our biggest value to the coalition is our boots on the ground in all 50 states. And I was really, really proud that I was able to, to seek out this opportunity, be able to represent NAIFA and present to these very influential people in the financial services industry. And they saw the value of NAIFA. They saw the spark, and that NAIFA has the grit. I think NAIFA has a lot of grit and our presence. So I think that would be probably my biggest my biggest accomplishment at NAIFA so far.
All right, going back and telling yourself, your 21-year-old self, about if you were able to look back and give yourself advice about work, what advice would you give yourself about your future? What would you do? What would you tell yourself about what to do?
Never sell yourself short, and don't let yourself feel complacent. Don't feel like you need to stay somewhere because you feel bad. You need to look out for yourself and your future, and there is nothing wrong with that.
If millennials are listening to this podcast, what advice would you give to millennials who are thinking about joining NAIFA or millennials that are in NAIFA? What advice would you give them?
Keep magnifying the stories that you see and hear every single day, because something that the millennials love is relating to other people. If we can relate to you and your stories, I promise you that you will thrive here at NAIFA. So
awesome. Any final words, Bianca, to NAIFA Nation?
Just thank you again for allowing me to join the podcast. I look forward to talking more about my story and hearing other people's stories, and if anyone has any questions regarding state advocacy, if I can help you, with literally anything on the state level, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I love answering questions, and it is my goal to ensure that our members feel comfortable and able and confident to advocate for NAIFA.
Thank you so much, Miss Bianca Weiss. Thank you. Round of applause. Zach, do you have anything else before I close this out?
Close this out, Chris.
All right, Bianca, you did a great job, Zach. It's always wonderful on the same side as you, my man.
That's right.
You are zooted and suited today. You look great.
And now I have to do the 3-piece suit because I feel like you just keep one-upping me every time I get on. Now I just need to get a vest.
Listen, Zach, dress for success if you want to feel blessed, my brother. So, all right, with that being said, thanks all of you out there at NAIFA Nation. We are so fortunate to have all this wonderful talent within NAIFA. And if we think about it, we can grow from within. We just have to get off the sidelines, activate our voice. And remember, at Advisor Today, our podcast is there to promote the voice and uplift our community to become better versions of ourselves for our clients. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you next week. And we'll see Bianca next week for the next couple of weeks. So as we start to dig into GR, and we look forward to hearing your story. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast series. Make sure to subscribe to get future episodes. And if you're interested in coming on the show, let us know.